welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where we are having a banner day of broadcasts. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. I'm the president, founder, and chief listening officer here at our network, where we have over 25 live shows each week. Our show today is entrepreneur and so much more. And our topic is what business owners need to know about project management. The star of our show is Justin Mirigliani. He is an amazing person. He's a dear friend, and he is helping people all over the world. He leads by example. He leads with his heart. He's incredibly strong physically and emotionally, and he is a TV show and radio show host. He is an entrepreneur. He is one of our elevated listeners. Let's bring him out. Welcome to the show, Justin.
Hey, Dr. Jacalyn, how are you?
Hey, so good to see you. I always look forward to
Same
this
here.
Monday night with you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to myself. Good seeing you. Glad you're feeling better. You look great.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I feel
Yeah,
very well. And how are you doing?
doing all right. Yeah, just this time of year gets busy, of course, with Christmas coming up and the holiday season and finishing up the year with work and family stuff. And it's fun, but man, there's a lot of stress.
There's a lot, there's probably five or six topics we could talk about right there, just
I
about
know.
closing out the year, especially as a business owner. But we're going to be
Yeah.
talking about project management. And, those two words together kind of give me chills because I'm not good at project management. And I know that you help people with that. And that is something that you really are an expert in. So I'm going to turn it over to you to walk us through what business leaders and owners need to know about project management.
Sounds good. So happy to do that. So welcome everybody. It's great to have you here for our show, Entrepreneur and so much more. And I always am so thankful for Dr. Jacalyn, all that she does to build this platform. It's just amazing. So yeah, we're going to talk about project management. I've been teaching Microsoft Project. It's software. It's obviously Microsoft software for project management, and it's a way that you're able to uh, take your resources. And when we talk about resources, we're talking about the people who get the job done, the equipment, the materials. So if you're building a house, you need lumber, you need screws, you need concrete, you need all these different materials. You need people, you need a contractor, you need a plumber, you need electricians, you need any but project manager. You need all those things. Also, resources like uh, airfare, and you got to worry about meals and tolls and all the expenses, and also the tasks, the things that need to be done, the little pieces of work. I call them the protein. Protein is the building block of muscle. If you want to grow big muscle, you need protein. The protein for projects is are the tasks, getting the tasks done. And we talk about creating a work breakdown structure, having your high level tasks and your low level tasks. And then we talk about how to marry those resources to the tasks. So if I have a task, paint the room, then I need a painter to paint the room. So we make the assignments there. And I've been teaching that for over 20 years, probably 23 years now. I've been teaching Microsoft Project. And now what I'm starting to do is branch out a little bit more into the project management, um, really the architecture of project management, not only the software. We really in the software talk about the software. We don't get into the art and the science of project management. And it certainly is both. It's an art and a science. And if it's done right, your projects are done on time, within budget, and the quality of the deliverable, whatever that project deliverable is going to be what you want it to be or better. And certainly, if you have a project where you're going to develop a car, a vehicle, you want that vehicle to be as good as it gets. The brakes have to work. The stereo system has to work. Obviously, the brakes are more important than the stereo system, but all of the aspects of that car, all of the amenities must be there. Otherwise, it's not going to be successful. So one of the things I teach in that project course, um, a Microsoft project, is think about a car dealership, and let's say we're an automotive company, and the new car year is September. So in September, the 2023s came out. Next year in September, the 2024s will come out. So it's a little bit ahead of schedule for the year. It's not like the 2023s will come out in January. That's not how it works. It comes out a little bit earlier. So in any event, one of the things I pose to the students is, well, let's say that you're developing this new vehicle, and it's a great vehicle. Everything works. It's wonderful. It's aerodynamic. It's got great gas mileage. It's a beautiful car. People love it. They're gonna just go crazy over it. But you don't get it into showrooms until January of 23. Well, that's a problem, because the people who were looking for a new car were looking for it in September and October and November of 22. And they've already spent their money. They've bought their cars. And unless they're very, very wealthy, most people are not going to trade in a car that they bought in, let's say, September of 22 in December of 23. That's a terrible mistake, considering that you're going to lose so much money on depreciation. So, even though you have this wonderful car that everybody would love to have, and people are going crazy over it, you're not going to sell enough to meet your profit margin, because you got it into showrooms too late. Now, another scenario would be, what if you did get into showrooms on time? So you got it into showrooms in September of 22. That's great. But you went $10 million over budget. Well, you still have a car that's great. It works. It's got great everything, all the amenities. People love it. It's a wonderful car. Um, you're selling like crazy. That's great. However, you went over budget. So again, you're not going to make your profit margin, because you're going to have to sell so many more cars just to make up that loss. And then on top of that, try to hit your profit margin. That's going to be a problem. So there's number two. And then number three, well, I shouldn't say probably, definitely the worst one is, let's say you're under budget. Great. Everybody wants to be under budget. I don't think anybody would have a problem with that. And you get it into showrooms on time. You get it into showrooms in September. Great. You're under budget. You're on time. But the brakes don't work. So now you put a car on the road with faulty brakes. Well, what's going to happen? You're gonna have a car out on the road that's going to cause a lot of accidents. You're going to get sued for sure. There's no doubt about that. The worst thing is, people will be hurt or killed because of your mistake by putting a car on the road. So the human toll is the worst thing. The damage to your company name, to your uh, trying to look for the word here. Your reputation, couldn't think of the word. Your reputation is going to be extremely damaged, and you might not recover for a very long time. And I think back, I was a kid, but in 1982, the Tylenol incident, where somebody had put cyanide in capsules in Tylenol, and even though it wasn't Tylenol's fault by any stretch of the imagination, it was some crazy person who put put cyanide in these capsules. But it took a long time for people to feel comfortable buying Tylenol after that. So even though it wasn't their fault, they still suffered from a tremendous hit to their reputation. And that's what would happen to your company if you're an automotive company. It would take probably a decade or more for people to say, yeah, I'll give them a chance again. So you're going to lose sales in the future. So these are the things that you have to think about as a project manager. And it seems so simple. It's like, well, of course, you want to put a great product on the road. Of course, you want to be under budget. Of course, you want to be on time. But how do you juggle that? How do you get that done? Um, here's a scenario that I use in the class. What if we have a task to put fuzzy dice in the rear view mirror of the cars? I mean, that could be cool, and that's nostalgia. Put fuzzy dice in the rearview mirror, and maybe it's going to cost you not that much money. Maybe it'll cost you like $50,000 By the time you put the dice in, you buy the dice themselves, you pay people to install the dice. Let's say it costs you $50,000. That's not a huge hit to your budget for a big automotive company. And let's say it takes 2 weeks to get that done. Okay. Now you got to ask yourself, is it worth it? Even though it's a little bit of money compared to what your budget is, 50,000 is not that big of a deal when you're talking about millions and millions and millions of dollars. But will people make a $20,000 or more decision based on whether there are fuzzy dice in the rearview mirror? I don't think they will. So if I'm a project manager, although it's a cool idea and it's neat and it's kind of nostalgic to put fuzzy dice in the rearview mirror, do I really want to blow up $50,000 in 2 weeks on something that probably will not make any difference whatsoever in the sales of the car? So I would probably say, you know what, let's nix that one. Now, you might have another task, inspect the brakes. Maybe that's going to take you 6 months and it's going to cost $5 million by the time you have people inspect the brakes and make any changes that need to be made. So it's going to cost you a tremendous amount of money to inspect the brakes. It's going to cost you a tremendous amount of time to inspect the brakes. But as a project manager, do you say to yourself, well, you know what? I'd like to save $5 million and I really would like to save 6 months worth of time. You know what? Let's take it out. Let's not inspect the brakes. Let's just hope or assume that the brakes will be great and everything will be fine. Well, you're opening yourself up to what would be a tremendous mistake because, yeah, your brakes might be okay, but if they're not, the cost of that would be astronomical and the human toll. And if you're not even worried about the human toll, if you're just worried about finance, which is sad, but some people are that way where it's just the money is the bottom line. But even if you're a money bottom line person, you're going to get crushed. Your car, again, you're not going to be able to sell any more cars. You're going to have to fix the cars that you already sold. You're going to lose money because of lawsuits, which justifiably you'd have to take on, and settlements, and the damage to your reputation as a company would be absolutely obliterated. So, those are just the simple things of project management. Now, over the last couple of weeks, I've been taking a course. It's actually six courses, and it's all about project management. And what I'm hoping to do by getting into these courses is to take the gigantic amount of information that there is for project management and simplify it a little bit and create a class that's a little more streamlined. Um, so this course, or I should say the series of courses, each course itself should take about a month. So there's six of them. It should take about 6 or 7 months by the time you're completely finished. So each course has week 1, week 2, week 3. Some of them have 4 weeks, some of them have 5, some have 6. And then you take a test at the end of the week. Now, I'm fortunate enough to have been in project management long enough to really know a lot of this information ahead of time. So for me, I've been able to take these courses and get them done in a very short amount of time. So I finished already the first 3 courses in 2 weeks, and I'm a third of the way through the fourth course. So what should take 6 months for me is going to probably take only about a month or maybe a month and a half. That's not going to be the same for most people because it's not that I'm smarter than anybody else or have this incredible ability to speed read or anything. I've done it long enough. I've done it for 23 years. So a lot of the information is stuff that I already know. For somebody who's just starting out, that's not going to be the case. It's going to take you probably 6 months to do it. Now, what we're starting to see is that people are not following through. So they'll take the first course, they get through it, they feel accomplished, but then there's still a mountain ahead of you. There's course 2 through 6. And what's happening is people are taking the first course and then they're kind of stopping and that's it. Or they'll take the first one and the second one, but no one's taking the third, fourth, and fifth. Or some folks are taking the first course and then just skipping ahead to fifth or sixth. You can't get your certification unless you pass them all. So what's happening is people are not finishing all of the courses. I will be finishing all the courses. So what I'm trying to do is come up with a way to create a class where people can learn this information, maybe in a more streamlined fashion, and then be able to go into the courses and kind of speed through them like I am right now, and get them done a lot more quickly than 6 months. Certainly, I'm not condoning that anybody cheat. I've been able to do this because of prior knowledge. It's not that I'm cheating the test, or I'm passing the test because I'm having somebody take them for me or anything like that. Not at all. And I would um, never do that, because this is ethically, you could actually get college courses for this. So ethically, you could not have people cheat. But it's just, to me, like, um, people who count cards, people who learn how to count cards. I know the casinos call that cheating, but I don't. To me, if you're able to do that, if you've trained your mind to be able to count cards, as long as you're not using any kind of um, clicker or anything like that, if you're using your own brain power, then to me that's not cheating. You're doing what you need to do, and if you're successful, well, that's great. So that's the goal, is to be able to teach people how to use this information, and then how to pass these tests and become project managers, and also become project management experts. um, it takes time. It's not something, even if you pass all the tests and you get done the all 6 courses, you still need to put it into practice wherever you go to work. I think that most companies now understand, or hope they do, that people are not project management experts just because they've taken courses and learned through books. That's a huge part of it, but you really need time to put it into practice. So that's where I'm going right now. It's just it's a work in progress, and it's going to take some time. But um, you know, again, another thing that we're learning, and I think is pretty well known now, is people don't like to self learn. They really don't. It's very difficult for people to set aside time to watch videos and to read readings and do all these different things to learn. They really need somebody there to coach them through it, to get them through the prompts. And again, that's why you're seeing, or at least I'm seeing, that these courses are being started. People do course one, maybe do course two, and then they drop off after that. It just becomes too much. So, whether it's computer training, soft skills training, whatever it is, I really do believe that I will never be out of business, because people need a trainer. They need somebody to coach them. You really can't learn many things on your own and be extremely proficient in them without some kind of coaching. Uh, the only reason I'm able to do what I'm doing with this set of courses is because I've been taught by other people. I've had coaches, I've had trainers train me on project management. That's really the long and the short of it. So, as great as it is that you have these companies like Google who do these courses, I don't think the day is ever going to be there where the majority of people are going to say, you know what, I don't need an instructor, I don't need a coach, I'll just do it myself.
Yeah, Justin, you made some really good points there. I think when we have someone like you with us, the information really gets ingrained into our brain, because when you're just reading something, a lot of times it's like with listening, we get distracted. So we're looking at it, we're reading it, but we're actually thinking about something else.
Exactly. I mean, how many times have you, I'm sure, Dr. Jacqueline, you've done this too, just like everybody else, where you read a paragraph 5, 6, 7 times because you were never able to concentrate on it because something else was going on, or there was an issue that you were worried about, or whatever it is.
It's so true. And I think the other thing about being able to learn with a coach, with a mentor, with a trainer, is you get to ask questions. You can
Right.
actually do role play scenarios, business cases, and that's a lot different than reading something. I think there's a good place for reading material as well, but I think it's just one aspect of it. And when you're talking about project management, which has so many layers, and we talked about this before, it's a full-time commitment to
Right.
project management. where are some of the places that you've seen that people get tripped up when they start working in a capacity as a project manager?
Well, I think the biggest thing is people don't know where to start. I think that's the hardest thing is trying to, what do you use? Do you use Microsoft Project? Do you use an Excel spreadsheet? Do you use Google Sheets? First of all, what piece of software do you use? And then once you decide that, I think they have trouble deciding, what depth they're going to go in project management. For instance, in Microsoft Project, you could have 9 levels of tasks. So you could have a task and then a subtask and a sub of that, and you could go 9 levels deep.
Hmm.
That's
So
extremely detailed.
is that necessary?
Depends on the project. For most, no. Most I would say would go maybe 3 or 4 deep max. But let's say that you're building a house and there are multiple layers to get things done. You could go as far as 9 deep in Microsoft Project. Um, you know how there are all kinds of calculations of how to decide what durations the tasks are going to be.
So I have a basic question for entrepreneurs. There's so many things that we do that we could consider a project. When do we need project management? When do we need to engage with you? What are the criteria? Is it the number of steps? Is it the length of time? Is it the budget? What is it?
It's going to be different things to different people. It's going to be what you decide you need help with. Some people, like for instance, when I run my charity events, I really don't create a project plan. I have it in my head. I know what I need. I know what my budget's going to be. I do create some spreadsheets to calculate budget and calculate how much money we're bringing in through ticket sales and corporate sponsorship. But for somebody else, they might want a project plan. They might want the tasks spelled out. They might want a work breakdown structure. We call it a WBS, where you create what are called summary tasks and subtasks. So let's say I'm going to write a book and I want to not just write the book, but I want to be able to sell it. I want to be able to have it published. So you might have some subtasks. And some people might call them phase one, phase two, phase three. Other people might call them something else. You might have a pre-write phase, and then you might have a writing phase, and then you might have an editing phase, and then a printing phase, then a publishing phase. And then under those phases would be the subtasks that need to get done. So for instance, in the pre-write phase, one thing might be search the web, do some research on the internet, or investigate what software you're going to need to write this book. Are you going to use Microsoft Word? Are you going to use Google Docs? What are you going to use for the writing process? And then after you get all of your, another one that I can think of just came to me. Interview a subject matter expert. You may be writing a book where you need a subject matter expert who will give you information that is necessary for this book to make sense. So that's another one, that might be in the pre-write phase. And then how do they link to each other? Do they happen in succession? So is it one after the other? We call that a finish to start relationship. Do they start at the same time, a start to start relationship? Do they finish simultaneously? It's a finish to finish relationship. So those are all things that you have to factor in. Now, here's the rub. There are some times in my charity events where it would actually cost me time to spend the time building a project plan for it, because I don't need one. I can get it done and be successful in it. And I've done it over a few years where I don't really need a project plan. Now, what if the first 2 years were unsuccessful? Let's say that instead of actually getting money and being on the positive side, we were actually on the negative side. Or let's say that the event never happened because we missed deadlines. Well, then I might want to create a project plan um, the next time, the third year, because the first 2 years we didn't do so well without one. So it's a really difficult question to answer, and I think that's one thing that I want to try to. And I don't even know the answer myself. I want to try to figure out how much is too much. We had Ralph Benershka on a few months ago when we were doing the Take Steps show, And one of Rolf's mantras is don't let great be the enemy of good enough. So, in other words, don't do and redo and redo and redo. Sometimes good enough is literally good enough. And you can say, well, this is fine. We're going to put this out. And maybe if we do this again, we could do it better. But if you constantly try to recreate the wheel, you'll never get the project done. So, really, it's a long answer to when should you, as Dr. Jacalyn asked, when should you create a project plan? The answer is it depends. You're going to have to decide whether the time building the project plan is worth it. If building that project plan is going to bring you to success, then do it. If it's going to keep you under budget, if it's going to keep you within scope and on time, absolutely do it. But if you could be on time, under budget, and within scope without the project plan, honestly, my advice would be don't do it. It's just going to take more time.
Great answer. Thank you so much. So, Justin, you've been taking these courses and you mentioned that they're, I don't know if it's timed out, but probably not because people are skipping through, right? You don't have to go through every page, every.
You have to, I can fast forward through the videos and just kind of get blurbs from it because I know the terminology. So I'm able to see the terminology. So a 6-minute video I watch in 30 seconds. And
Okay.
then, one of the documents might be a 20-minute document. It tells you on there how long it should take you to read it. But I don't need to. I could skim it because, again, I have some prior experience. So I just look for the key words and I'm able to know, what I need to know at that point. And then there's a test at the end. And to pass the test, you got to know the answers. So it's
Right.
it's not like you can fudge it in any way. But I would not be able to do this without 23 years of project management experience.
That's a lot of experience. That's for
Yeah.
sure. So, what happens as business owners when we get our heads stuck on individual tasks instead of the whole project? So, we go down this rabbit hole. And by doing that, we're taking our time away from the overall project itself. Is there any direction you can give us here?
What you're talking about there is scope creep. Scope creep is when you start adding additional tasks. You know, project managers oftentimes, especially new project managers, will say, you know what, I'm going to add this little task. It's only 1 day of duration. Not a big deal. Okay, fine. It's 1 day and it's only going to cost $2,000. No big deal. And then the next day they add another one. Uh-oh. Did I lose you, Dr. Jacalyn?
No, I'm here.
Somehow I lost. Oh, my screen flickered there. So, uh, what I was saying was the other part of scope creep is, if you do it once, if you add one small task for $2,000 in a 1 day duration, that's not a humongous deal. If you do that 20 times, that's a big deal. You just added 20 days to your project and $40,000. So scope creep are the little extra tasks that you add to your project. Just going to do this one more, just going to do this one more, but add this one more. Well, those one mores, when you add them up, are many more. And that's what we don't see. It's the that's why they call it scope creep. It kind of creeps up on you. And that's what we got to watch. And that's one of the reasons why, if you're noticing that you're doing more tasks than you should, or if you're doing different tasks than you thought you would do, maybe the next time you want to create a project plan and try to stay on scope.
That's scope creep.
Scope creep,
Creep.
because it creeps up on you like a ghost.
Yeah, we don't want that happening. So,
No.
Justin, how do you work with your clients in terms of helping them in this area of project management? Because you just talked about you're expanding your knowledge, right? You're taking
Right.
more courses. We're coming to the end of the year. People are budgeting for next year, and project management obviously is very important. So, how do you work with your clients?
Well, I do training courses on Microsoft Project where we do get into some theory, but to be honest with you, nowhere near 6 months worth of theory. The project management, Microsoft Project classes are about 2 days. Um, Again, we talk a little bit about theory, but we really mainly stick to the program itself. What I'm trying to do is find a way to offer classes like boot camp classes where you can learn 6 months of project management theory, not programs, with theory, in a shorter amount of time. So if I could reduce somebody's time by 3 months and half it from 6 months to 3 months, that's a pretty big deal. That's not only a time saving, but you're saving money as well, because the more months that you have to be signed up for these courses, the more it costs you. So that's what I'm doing now, and it's a pretty big uh, undertaking. It's not going to be something that's very easy, because project management, what people don't realize about it, if they haven't been involved with it before, is just how detailed it is. The Gantt charts, PERT charts, RACI charts, all kinds of different data analysis tools that we talk about, forecasting, communication skills. There are so many soft skills and hard skills that go into project management that you can never learn it, in just a couple of days. And that's what I've been doing over my career, is just been giving the 2 day, here's Microsoft project, here's a little bit of theory, we're going to just go through it very quickly over 2 days. Now what I want to do is I want to have, like, again, a boot camp where we really hit hard 6 months worth of information, and try to knock it down to 3 or 4 months. And that's the goal. And it's going to take some time, but that's what I'm shooting for.
Thanks for sharing that. And Justin, what I'm wondering is it the business owner who should be taking the course? I hate to use should, but is the business owner the one who should learn project management, or is that something that you hand off to somebody else?
If you have the budget, you would hand it off to somebody else, because as a business owner, you have a lot on your plate. And project management in and of itself is a full-time job, depending on how big the project is and how many projects do you have. You know, if I'm a Habitat for Humanity, for instance, they don't build one house at a time. They're building homes for hundreds of people at a time. So they have hundreds of projects going on at the same time, which we call a portfolio, where you have multiple projects, similar ones, going on at the same time. And then you have programs on top of that, which are uh, the portfolios and the projects together. So if I'm a business owner now, for me, I'm not in a position where I can afford to hire a full-time project manager. It's very expensive. They make a lot of money, and it's a growing business. If somebody is looking for a new job and they want to get into the business world and find something that's really growing, project management is where it's at. There's I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but the estimates are a huge number of people are going to be needed in this field over the next 10 years. So if I'm a business owner and I have multiple projects and I'm making really, really good money, you probably want to hire a project manager and hand it off.
And what kind of skill sets does a successful project manager have?
Organization skills, forecasting skills, communication skills, computer skills. You have to be able to run reports, spreadsheets, work in some sort of Microsoft project or Monday.com, one of those types of programs. There's a whole interpersonal skills. How do you treat people? We talked about um, empowerment in one of our sessions, and entrepreneur and so much more. And how much of that is people skills, being able to get people to do what you want them to do, getting them to want to do what you want them to do is really the key. So there's so much to it. It's not just one skill. You really have to be multifaceted if you want to be a really good project manager.
And would you say that project management falls under soft skills, or are these actual hard skills?
It's a mix. It's both a science and an art.
Hmm.
The science part of it is, there are certain things that we know will make you successful. If you're organized, you're going to be, that's one way to be successful. It's one part of the success equation. Uh, Being able to forecast, there's science to this. We can look back at past history. We can talk to the people who have actually done these tasks before. There are many different things you could do, and there's also an art to it. When do you use the right tools? Let's say we're talking about risk management. Well, what risks are acceptable? what risks are not. How do you score them? There's a way to score them. There's a whole spreadsheet on how to score risk. How likely is it? Is it 5% likely? Is it 20% likely? Is it 100% likely? If it happens, what's the damage to the project? Would it be catastrophic or would it be something you could absorb? So you have to look at risk a lot of different ways. Not just could it happen, but how likely is it to happen? And if it happened, what would be the upshot of it? Would it destroy your project? I mean, if a meteor hit Earth, every project on Earth would be destroyed. But do we rank that as a high risk? Of course not, because the odds of that happening are what, 1 in 1 billion? So you can't say, well, gee, that would be catastrophic, so we better score that really, really high. It's probably not going to happen. Uh, will people get sick and miss days of work? Absolutely. That's 100% going to happen. If you have 100% of people working on a project, I guarantee you somebody someday will get sick and miss a day of work, 2 days of work, even maybe a week of work. But is that catastrophic? No. Somebody else will pick up the slack, or that person will come back and they'll get it done afterwards. Or maybe if they're feeling a little bit better, they'll jump on the computer from home. So, there's all of this that's involved in project management. And even for me, to be honest with you, with the experience that I have, sometimes I'm even feeling like, man, this is just so much. I feel like I'm inundated. I feel like I have to walk away and kind of take a deep breath and stand back. And that's just part of it. I mean, there's so much. It goes back to, don't let good enough be the enemy of don't let great rather be the enemy of good enough. Sometimes you have to say to yourself, look, I don't need to spend this much time planning. I have to do more doing. And that's the art part of it.
Wow, that was a great explanation. Thank you. Once again, learning something new. And it's also
Yeah,
interesting. I kind of thought that project management was uh, for someone who is more introverted, but yet you're talking about communication being effective and a number of other things where
huge.
you're extrovert. So I guess it's that art science thing and it's extrovert, introvert.
You have to be able to work alone and you have to be able to work with a group. You have stakeholders, right? Stakeholders are anybody who has a vested interest in the success of the project. So your stakeholders are your stockholders, your resources, that your subordinates, the owners of the company, the CEO. Everybody's a stakeholder, and the way you speak with them is different. The way you communicate with them is different. When you communicate with them is different. I would never go to a CEO and say, you know, Mary Smith was out sick yesterday and we're behind schedule. The CEO doesn't want to know that. The CEO wants to know, bottom line, are you getting things done? Right. Those are the little things that the CEO would say, I don't want, I can't be bothered with those little things. I have much more important things to worry about. So knowing who to communicate with and when, that's another humongous part of project management.
That's a great point to know. I'm thinking that if you're involved working individually and you put all this information together, you have to be able to successfully communicate what it is that you've done and the results.
How you communicate, the way you communicate with your subordinates, letting them know, you have to have positive feedback for people. You've done a great job. I really appreciate it. We're ahead of schedule, or we're a little bit behind schedule, but I know you guys have been working hard. Let's find out. Let's figure out a way to get us back on track. What could I do to help you? And it goes back to the last show that we did about service. If I'm a project manager, I have to be willing to roll up my sleeves and say, all right, I'm going to get involved here. If people are having a problem, if things are behind schedule, I have to accept that. One of the things we talked about in the last show was that it's hard, but when things go well, you have to give away all the credit. And when things go bad, you have to take all the blame if you're the leader. That's what good leaders do. So you have to be able to do that and be willing to do that if you're going to be a project manager, because you are the leader. You're leading the project.
Thank you, Justin. And I know there's a number of other areas where you work with people. We've talked about them before, soft skills. And I think it's important to just put it out there again as we close out the year for people to think about areas that maybe they need to expand their knowledge or give access to their team members so that people can learn soft skills.
Yeah, I teach courses on empowerment, communication skills, leadership skills, time management. I'm just trying to think of them all off the top of my head, and there's plenty more. You can go to my website, which is www.justforyoutc, all spelled out, JUSTFORYOUTC.com. And you can email me at justin@justforyoutc.com. Even if there's a course that you were looking for that isn't listed, you could ask. I'd be happy to put. I do, in fact, put courses together for people um, that a certain company wants a course, and I could put it together for you. But yeah, I mean, the it's sad, but I can sell the computer training. I train up to the expert level in Excel and Word, PowerPoint, Visio, Access, all these computer programs, and they're fairly easy to sell. But the soft skills classes, unfortunately, the world is not woken up yet to how important they are. And I don't know if this is good for me to say or not, but really, more of your success as a human being and as an employee is based on the soft skills. 75%, in fact. 75% of your success is how good of a communicator you are, what your time management skills are, what your conflict management skills are. That's really 75% of what your success will be. The 25% are the other things, Excel, Word, all of the software. So what I'm hoping is that, if you're listening out there, if you're watching, if you're a company where you're noticing that, man, you can't keep people in the building. The turnover is so high. People are leaving all the time. That's because you have poor leadership. That's usually the reason. It's usually not because they feel like they're not making enough money. That could be part of it, but that's usually not the biggest thing. The biggest thing is, are they happy where they are? And if they're not happy, that means the leadership is not allowing them to be happy.
And we know that that's so true. If you don't respect your immediate supervisor, your manager, or you've had issues, that's when people leave. And you can throw whatever amount of money at them, and that's not going to be a reason for them to stay. If they do stay,
Yeah.
they're going to be unhappy. And we know what happens when you're unhappy in a job.
No, you're going to leave. You're going to leave. And all that money that you put into training those people and all that money that you put into uh, the hiring process, you just lost all of it. And there we go again. You got to hire somebody else and train them again. It's so much cheaper and cost effective to keep people than to have to hire new people.
Absolutely. A question I just want to ask you as we close out the year is this a good time to take a couple of weeks off if you own a business? Do you say, hey, the last 2 weeks of the year I'm checked out?
I do. I just sent an email today to one of my clients, and they wanted to know if I was available during the Christmas to New Year's week, and I said no, I'm not available. So yeah, I think so. I mean, unless you're so far in debt right now that you really absolutely need the money, I could see that. But if you're doing okay and you're on the plus side, I would take the time. You can never get the time back.
So that was a great example that you just gave. You had someone call you, they wanted to hire you. You're like, no, I'm not working. So you actually said bye bye to that money. You
I
were
turned
like,
down business.
yeah, yeah, wow, interesting. So for people out there who are so afraid of missing every single minute at their work, at their office, at their business, how can they separate and find that this as a time of year to be with family, friends, self-reflection, gratitude, and put a little more into that and a little less into the day to day?
Well, you have to remember that there is a January. It's not like the world ends after Christmas and after New Year's. So if you're concerned about it, just think, all right, well, then I could always push this back. Usually, I'm sure that this client will still run these classes. They just will run it in January or February instead of December. So the money, you could always make it back. You can never, ever, ever get the time back. There's only going to be one. If you're Christian, there's one Christmas between in 2022. That's it. You get one. And if you live long enough, hopefully we all live to our 80s and 90s. That's only 80 or 90 Christmases. You don't get a whole lot of them, considering all the other days throughout the year. So the way I look at it is that money could always come back, but I'll never get Christmas of 22 back. Um, so to me, it's a no brainer.
I love that you just really summarize it like that. It's a finite number.
It
And
is.
yeah, if there's 365 days in a year and there's only 80 Christmases if you live to be 80, that's take advantage, enjoy.
They're all not going to be the best, but you want to make them as great as they can be.
Now let's go into January. And as you know, everybody starts making all these promises, and it starts now, really. And
Yeah.
then it's like with a gym, and you've seen it. I know you work out from home, but gyms get all these people signing up, and nobody comes. They're like, yeah, I thought I was going to be committed to this, but I'm actually not. So, as a business owner, when we look to next year, what are some things that are important that we are committed to? I'm thinking employees, to our culture, the culture that we have in the organization. What else can you think of?
Well, I think you have to be committed to putting in once you've taken time off. I think what happens is a lot of times people feel so good about the relaxation that it's hard to get back into the stress again. And I know that for me, early January is tough because I feel so relaxed and I almost don't want to have that pressure on my shoulders again. But you have to accept it. That's what you're doing. If you're running a business, you will have pressure. The only people who don't have pressure are people who are dead. Everybody alive has pressure in some way or another, whether you're an entrepreneur or my wife who's a school teacher or anything else. If you're living, you have stress. And you you can't say, well, last week between Christmas and New Year's felt so good. I want another week of that, and I want another week of that, and I want another week of that because now you're going to go into February. So you have to, some people I know have trouble with diets. I'll use that as the example. Once they go off the diet for a day or two, then they splurge forever. They just don't ever go back to the diet, and that I think that's the hard part for all of us is once we give ourselves the treat, we got to say, all right, we had the treat. It's time to buckle down again until the next time for a treat. So don't letting yourself have some downtime mean that you're going to continue it for 4, 5, 6 weeks. It's enjoy the hell out of Christmas and New Year's, but then get back into the swing of things.
Yeah, good point. I know I felt this way in the past. I don't feel it now, but and other people feel this way where it takes so much energy to get yourself at the level of performance. And then if you take any time off, it's like, oh, how am I going to pull all that energy again? It's like
Yeah,
you with the weightlifting, right? If you
right.
stop lifting weights for a while, how are you going to get back up to the numbers that you're doing? You think about all that work. So I think that's part of the reason why people become so obsessed that they don't want to have to literally start all over again, but you're not.
No, you're not starting all over again. You're just trying to get back into the swing. That's all. There's a big difference between starting from scratch and just picking up where you left off. There's a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Justin, tell us about your charity and tell us, is there anything new with the game that you've been looking to put on for a while?
Yeah, it's been pretty slow only because COVID really really hurt us. The charity is Checkmates Charitable Association. The website is www.checkmatescharity.com. And my email there is justin@checkmatescharity.com. And we're talking right now about putting together another event, probably not in 23, maybe in 24. And what we do are NHL celebrity hockey games to raise money and awareness, of course, for inflammatory bowel disease and for those with an ostomy. Those who don't know, I had ulcerative colitis for 12 years. It was developing into colon cancer, so I had my entire large intestine, rectum, and anus removed, and I have what's called an ileostomy. It's permanent, and it's a bag, and the bag is I dump the bag several times a day, and it's my version of a bowel movement. And what we're trying to do is raise money for folks who were in my position where they have inflammatory bowel disease, and b who are in my position now where they have an appliance, we call it, either an ileostomy, a colostomy, a urostomy. There's several different types of ostomies, and these are communities that are very underserved because it's not something that people want to talk about. People don't want to talk about a bathroom disease. It's much more than that. I don't think a lot of people know really what these diseases do to those who have them. And sometimes when I mention I had ulcerative colitis, they say, "I what is that? I never heard of it before." And then I say, "Well, it's similar to Crohn's disease." And they say, "Oh, I've heard of Crohn's." So that's what we're up against. So Checkmates is really trying. We're trying our best to get the word out there that there are people in this community, and we need money, and we need awareness.
I love what you're doing. It's wonderful. And I
Well, thank
understand,
you.
as you know, I'm a patient. And I'd like to just say we have our support group for the Crohn's Colitis Foundation. It's tomorrow night. If anybody would like to join, the information is on all of my social media, Jacalyn Kerbeck, Dr. Jacalyn. So, little segue.
Okay.
Justin, it's been so much fun seeing you, and I'm so
Same
glad
here.
that you are coming back next year. The show is renewed, and we will see you next January. I'm not sure of the date, but you'll also be at our year anniversary celebration.
I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be great. Can you
I
believe it's
am.
almost a year?
It's it's unbelievable to me. It really
It's
is. It's
crazy.
been a great year, and we've got some
It has.
exciting things coming up with new people joining and new spotlights on various countries around the world. So I'm just very grateful and just thankful that you are a big part of it.
Thank you too. You've done a spectacular job. This is an amazing place.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm going to spotlight you again. Please let people know how they can reach you. Are you available in January for people to hire
I
you?
am. I'm available from January 2nd on. So, yeah, you can reach me at Justin at just for you TC, all spelled out, JUSTFORYOUTC.com. Justin at justforyoutc.com. My cell number is 610-324-5545. You can give me a call or shoot me a text and let me know what you need. But I do all kinds of training. Again, Microsoft applications, other Microsoft Teams, uh, OneDrive, SharePoint, all these different applications, Adobe Acrobat. I do those classes, and I do soft skills, communications, time management, project management, all kinds of different courses. So if you need to build your staff, I can do it for you.
Justin's the guy to call. So please do reach out to him and connect with him on LinkedIn as well. That's a great place to find
Yes.
you.
Yep.
So I thank you so much. And I'm just wishing you the best of holidays. I'll be speaking to you anyway, but enjoy
Yeah.
yourself. Enjoy the
You
time
too, Dr.
away.
Jacqueline. Yes,
Thank
you
you.
too. Enjoy it.
Thanks so much. All right,
You're
Justin and I
welcome.
are signing off for now. That's our last show for today. We will be back tomorrow. I have to just give a little plug. If you missed the Spelling Bee show today, it was a winner. I'm telling you, go over to our YouTube channel. Go there anyway. You'll find all of our shows listed in playlists, and the Spelling Bee is under the Spelling Bee. So
Awesome.
thanks, everyone. Thanks, Justin.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.